And welcome back, everyone. At halftime, Iowa leading 20-7 over the Florida Gators out of the SEC. The Big Ten with just one win so far during the bowl season. Mark Jones along with Bob Davey, Holly Rowe down at the field. Once again, a Happy New Year from all of us at ESPN to all of you at home. And Bob, interesting to note, at the end of the first half, as Ron Zook and the Gators left the field, we heard a distinctive smattering of boos, a chorus of boos raining down. How did they react after that?
Well, Mark, you can only worry about things you can control, and there's a reason you have halftime. The reason you have halftime, as a coach, you get in there and settle your football team down, give them a plan that gives them a chance to win the second half. The reason you play the second half, so your football team has a chance to come back and win the game. So Florida's coaching staff has a responsibility, starting with Ron Zook, to give them a plan, and then ultimately their football team has the main responsibility to come back and play better in this second half. I think key for Florida is to settle Chris Leak down by throwing some screen passes, getting the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker, running the football. We see right there that they only had 24 yards rushing in the first half, and ultimately, because of that, Mark, control the football a little bit to control this time of possession, because Iowa dominated. If you're Iowa, don't get conservative. Run the football. You know you can run it. Take your shots down the field with play action. And when you cross midfield, you're in Nate Kaeding's range. Just get it close, and Nate Kaeding can win this football game for you.
Big advantage for the Hawkeyes as we looked at the U.S. Marines first half statistics. Kirk Ferentz's team coming into this ball game with thoughts of last year and the debacle down at the Orange Bowl. But this year, the preparation was different. The mindset was certainly different. And Fred Russell and the rest of the crew took care of the offense in the first half. Nate Kaeding set to kick off for Iowa, who received the opening kickoff and were unable to score. Florida got off to that quick start, but they have struggled ever since offensively.
And Mark, I go back to the point, as Florida gets this football, don't make it all revolve around Chris Leak. Get the ball out of his hands, throw some screen passes against this zone coverage that Iowa's employing. Don't try to force it down the football field.
Kaeding kicks off. At the goal line, it's Caldwell. Andre Caldwell brought down at the 16-yard line. Let's take a look at our Outback game track. Some of the precise, cogent points of the game. Florida off to that lightning quick start, as demonstrated by this 70-yard strike to Kight. But then Iowa's defense began to tighten the screws on quarterback Chris Leak, and the Hawkeyes responded with 20 consecutive points. Chandler doing a good job of mixing up the plays. Here's Leak. Oh, and they got rocked. Grant Steen rocked O.J. Small's world.
Mark, we talked about getting the ball out of his hands and throwing the screen pass. I think Grant Steen heard that coaching point, and right here he explodes on this bubble screen and knocks O.J. Small back. Keep in mind, O.J. Small, Mark, 225 pounds.
Grant Steen, though, limping off the field. Steen has been a warrior for the Hawkeyes over the last couple of seasons. This year has been nicked up quite a bit, fighting injuries and coming back healthy in this game. Last 3 games of the season, he's been much better. Second down and 10 for Florida. Empty formation. 5 receivers out on the play. Leak complete to the 21-yard line. That's Burnell Brown. Abdul Hodge making the stop on the play.
Again, Iowa, Mark, zone coverage, letting those linebackers break on the football. That 93 yards early, a little bit deceptive, because obviously one of those was a 70-yard pass play. The red line again, pass protection first.
3rd and 5 for the Gators. Leak incomplete. Good coverage on Carlos Perez by Abdul Hodge. And let's go downstairs to Holly Rowe.
Hey guys, we talked with Coach Kurt Ferentz at halftime, and he said his kids have to just play football. That sounds so simple, but he said their goal coming to the game was to be physical in all 3 phases of the game, and he said they did that, but he wants them to continue and not get such big heads because they're up by 13 over a Florida SEC team. Talking to Ron Zook, they said they will try to take some of the pressure off of Chris Leak, put the ball in some of their other playmakers' hands.
And it's blocked. Wilbur had it blocked into the end zone. Touchdown, Iowa. Matt Melloy blocked it and recovered it.
Also responsible for the block.
Mark, it cannot start any better if you're Iowa as we start this second half. On the flip side, it cannot be any worse for Florida. To block that punt after a 3-and-out series, Florida has a huge mountain to climb now, Mark.
It's something we've seen all year from the Hawkeyes. Their ability to block punts and come up with big plays on special teams. The Hawkeye Nation has detonated in the face of the Gators and right now lead 27-7. Melloy getting the job done. More after this. Iowa turning some heads at the beginning of the second half with a blocked punt for a touchdown. Matt Melloy blocking it and recovering it in the end zone. It was the first blocked punt for Florida all year. Kaeding's kick is going to come down at about the 5 and dropped by Caldwell. It continues to unravel for the Gators. From bad to worse. Here's a look at the blocked punt.
Mark, this is just a total breakdown right here. Joe Cohen right here, number 20, is the slot, a true freshman. Matt Melloy is the outside rusher. He is responsible to block number 1 in man-to-man protection. He just turns them loose. Matt Melloy takes the ball off the punter's foot, and right here, Jameer Roberts forces the punter out of bounds, and Matt Melloy recovers the fumble for a touchdown.
That has been an opportunistic Iowa team fumble, and it's recovered by Mike DeGore, the offensive center. Faison had it come out of his arms. You saw the number. Iowa has been very opportunistic with all those non-offensive touchdowns over the last couple of seasons.
And Mark, you always make a decision as a coach. You put the young, super talented player like Joe Cohen, a freshman on the punt team, or you go with older guys that maybe are a little more experienced.
About that time it was Rand Carthon hanging on to the ball for Florida out to the 23. And they got the first down. And a bit of a derisive cheer from a very sarcastic Gator gathering on the sidelines, their fans.
And I think a good job of Ed Zondrecker, Florida's offensive coordinator, putting Chris Leak under center, putting 2 backs in the backfield, running play action pass.
There's some play action right there for you. The pass is complete to Small. O.J. Small out into Iowa's territory at the 47. They could use a lot more of that, a 30-yard pickup offensively. They're in fast mode offensively.
Again, Mark, good plan. Put the quarterback under center, more balance in your offense with the running game, going to some play action pass, less drop back.
Here's Rand Carthon chopped down at the line of scrimmage by Abdul Hodge, playing in front of some hometown folks from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, about 3 hours down the turnpike. Hard-hitting front 7 for Iowa.
You're going to see Abdul Hodge right there, comes off the block of Max Starks.
Pass complete. Down to the 37-yard line. That's Carlos Perez. Senior playing his last game for the Gators. Out near the first down marker at about the 37.
You see one of the advantages of no huddle, Mark, even though it's 27-7, Florida quickly into getting those plays run at the line of scrimmage. Here Chris Leak takes it on the quarterback sneak for the first down. So they're totally in their comfort zone right now. All they do is pick the tempo up a little bit more because obviously they're down by 20 points.
Ron Zupka a little bit bewildered on the sidelines, looking for some answers. Iowa with 27 consecutive unanswered points.
Marking Ben Troop, maybe the best tight end in the country so far in this football game. I don't believe he has it yet.
Play fake. And Leak lofts it high, incomplete. O.J. Small is intended receiver, slipped on the turf and fell. Second down and 10 for Florida.
And Florida comes back, Mark, to the same route they ran on the big pass a second ago. They clear out the quarters of the field with the outside receiver, then O.J. Small in behind it. That's a good quarters coverage beater by clearing out the outside corner, then isolating the inside receiver on the strong safety.
This Iowa defense is 10th in the nation in scoring defense. Stingy. Harvin having to earn those yards down to the 31-yard line. Neibauer making the stop. Florida getting on track a little bit here offensively in the second half. Putting Chris Leak under the center and now out of the shotgun for one of the few times on this drive. This is the 9th play, 3rd and 5.
Expect twist stunts up front by this Iowa defensive line, Mark. They love to twist.
Troop in motion. Leak almost intercepted that time by Javon Johnson. It'll be 4th and 5. Pass is intended for Dallas Baker.
Again, Iowa zone coverage. Excellent break on the ball right there by the corner, number 26, Jovan Johnson.
Now Matt Leach coming in to attempt a field goal. This one will come from about 49 yards out. He's 20 of 26 on the season and 5 of 8 between 40 and 49 yards. A nice kick by Leach. He's hit 9 of his last 10 now. And we have a timeout. And time now for our Aflac trivia question. What school has the best record and what school has the worst record in Big Ten versus SEC bowl games? Ponder that. We'll have the answer on the other side. Welcome back, everyone, to Tampa, the 18th Outback Bowl. Iowa leading by 17 points. And got to get to the Tampa, St. Pete's area, folks, and dip your toes in the sand and order yourself your favorite beverage. Get out to the beach. There's our Holly Rose sporting a bit of a tan these days, Bob. This is Fred Russell on the kickoff return. Great balance out to the 33-yard line. Iowa has we got a little something going on the field. Iowa, meanwhile, has done a nice job running the ball, mostly on the shoulders of Fred Russell. A total of 129 rushing yards. They've done it between the tackles, on the edges. Fred Russell bound and determined to make it happen. 12 rushes for a total of 95 yards, and Jamel Lewis doing a nice job of complimenting him. First down and 10. Chandler on the play fake. And he throws it away. That is second down and 10.
Complete. Second and 10.
Well, it certainly goes without saying that when they run the ball, they can be a very, very productive team.
Mark, because obviously most teams that are able to run the football are successful. But what really makes it successful is it gives them the opportunity to throw the play-action pass game. They are not a great drop-back team, so they have to run the ball to be able to set up the big play potential with play-action passes.
Nate Chandler, the senior, leading the way offensively. Mo Brown in motion. Give it to Fred Russell, and he's bottled up right at the 30-yard line. It's going to be third and long. Mike Fleming making the statement for the Gator defense. Third and 10 coming up. It would be huge if the Gators could get a stop here.
Mark, it would. I want to bring up this point again because I know you're a big playoff proponent. in college football. I love the current bowl structure. This has been an unbelievable atmosphere here at this Outback Bowl.
You flipped
if there was a playoff system,
you
would not have this same atmosphere. The Outback may not even be a part of the playoff system.
You converted me. 3rd and 10. Chandler. And it's 4th down. A nice sequence defensively for the Gators.
And the Gator fans, Mark, they were booing at the end of the first half. Now they're coming back, trying to help this football team.
Iowa had scored on its last 4 straight possessions prior to this.
And, Mark, I'm really surprised that Kewan Ratliff is not back returning this punt. He is one of the best in the country.
Instead, it's going to be Vernell Brown. Bradley with his 4th punt. Brown's going to watch it bounce at the 37. Takes a very good Iowa roll down to the 27. 42-yard punt, nothing on the return. The Big Ten has struggled so far in bowl games, just 1-3 coming in. A big win by Minnesota yesterday, and Asad Abdul-Khalid capping his career in a very nice way.
January 1st, Mark. Minnesota started the momentum last night against Oregon, won. Now January 1st. That's what people will remember about the Big Ten and this year's bowl games.
And right now, Purdue trailing Georgia. 1st down and 10 for the Gators. Got a field goal out of the last drive. See if they can keep the momentum on their side. Rand Carthen out to the 33. Klaus making the stop.
Mark, let's talk about Max Starks, this big offensive tackle from Florida. This is one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen. You know, his mom is an undertaker. He grew up in the funeral business. I did a home visit with him, and we actually did it at the funeral home when he was a senior in high school.
A little cold in there?
You know, he is also president of the Junior Undertakers Association. That's the biggest potential undertaker in the United States. I'm going to go out on a limb and make that statement.
Hey, people look at him, they may come back to life. Carlos Perez on that last catch. That is a big catch. Max Starks, 3rd down and short, 1 to go. Perez in motion. Leak goes through his progression and finds Carthen. And they got the 1st down at the 40. They made the freshman quarterback be patient, Bob, and he found his man for the 1st down.
You're right, Mark, and it starts with the protection. We talked about Big Max Starks right here, lined up. Look at the size of that man mountain. Howard Hodges with 10 sacks, a great player, but undersized. That is a big, big man, Mark.
No doubt. Carthen with another nice run out to the 47, and Reese Davis, what do you have for us?
Mark, got the other Big Ten SEC matchup going on right now in the Capital One Bowl. Georgia and Purdue. Dogs marched it right down. David Green, Fred Gibson, Dogs on top 7-0 in their defense, stifling Purdue. Maryland jumped on top of West Virginia 10-0.
Right, and the Big East finally getting the win last night with Boston College winning. 2nd down and 3 right here for the Gators. Leak. Nice catch and a nice tackle by Bob Sanders on Reggie Lewis. Bob Sanders will rattle your feelings, that's for sure. But a 15-yard pickup by Florida.
Mark, he is an explosive player, but Iowa again in zone coverage. Watch the linebacker jump the crossing right here. Abdul Hodge jumps the crossing route. He allows the 2nd level crossing route to come open. Bob Sanders had to break on the ball and make the tackle. I'm impressed with Florida's offense right now, Mark. I think a great job at halftime of settling this football team down.
And Leak going up top has Baker. Just overthrowing him. He got in behind Javon Johnson. That was inches away from being 6.
Mark, and Chris Leak, you can tell he's been coached up probably since he's been in the cradle. Watch this release right here. He throws the football right from his ear like a catcher. A tremendous release, and he threw that ball about 60 yards in the air. But he has a great release for a young quarterback.
2nd down and 10. Release is complete out of the backfield, and it's dropped by Faison. Hazen got it back at the 47-yard line. Neibauer was there to pounce on.
Mark, and there has been no call just yet by this officiating crew. There's some confusion right here whether this was a catch or not.
Well, there's our answer. Third down coming up. 10 to go. Florida's offense has looked much different in the last two drives, and it did in the ending part of the second period.
Mark, we get a chance to look at this again. Phased on the wide receiver, the ball thrown behind him. I don't think he ever had possession. I think that's a good call right there. Rolling it incomplete.
They're 3 of 10 on third down conversions this afternoon.
And Ben Troop, Mark, silent in this football game, number 84, the big tight end from Florida.
Leak wide open. First down to Carlos Perez at the 23-yard line. And here come the Gators. Alive and well.
Again, Mark, they're starting to run these crossing routes against zone coverage. Again, Carlos Perez in behind the linebackers. Ed Zonbrecker, Florida's offensive coordinator, I think. Excellent job at halftime. This quarterback is now getting into his comfort zone, Mark.
It looks like it on 1st and 10. Cartham. Gaping hole over the right side of that offensive line. Zonbrecker, his offense installed a couple of years ago when head coach Ron Zook brought him in, the former offensive coordinator at Marshall, where he had some pretty prolific quarterbacks in Pennington and Leftwich. You can coach him up, Bob.
And got to know Ron Zook when he was an assistant at LSU, and Ron Zook was an assistant at Florida. They actually played in the Southeast Conference assistant golf tournament together and rode on the same golf cart. They've been friends ever since, and he was Ron Zook's first hire when he became head coach.
Fumbled snap. And Leak falls on the loose ball way back at the 28. And Matt Roth was there just to make sure that he stayed down.
And an excellent no call right there, in my opinion, by the officials. But again, he's a freshman beyond his years. But here, Mark, he just muffed that shotgun snap. And again, Ed Zonbrecker, it's not bad to put him under center, Mark. You put a lot of burden on this quarterback, as you see him right now, orchestrating again everything at the line of scrimmage. That takes its toll, particularly on a young guy.
Bob looking at third down and long, 14 to go. Leak. Given time for Baker. Oh my goodness! He caught it! Took the elevator to the top floor over Javon Johnson, but there's a flag on the play. So hold on, let's see if it stands.
He may have used one of those Iowa defenders, Mark, as part of that elevator.
Yeah.
I think this one may come back.
It sure will. Much to the dismay of Ron Zook. Dallas Baker has a 38-inch vertical leap, and he showed you part of it there. The nephew of Wes Chandler.
We are going to get a chance to look at it. First of all, a great catch by Dallas Baker. Really difficult to see.
Not sure where the infraction occurred, frankly.
Mark, that's a tough, tough call. And look at the impact of this penalty. Instead of being a touchdown, now that football is back on the 42-yard line. So there's been some big plays in this football game. That may have been the biggest by the guys in that black and white shirt.
Our officials from the Mountain West Conference, headed by Claire Gossman, Centennial, Colorado. Third and St. Pete's to go. Leak. Nobody in the 8-1-3 area code could catch that. And it's 4th down. So what looked like a very inspiring drive early ends in 4th down and 29.
And Mark, critical right now for Florida's defense. They have some young players. Don't get in the ebb and flow of this football game right now as far as momentum. Some good things happening for Florida. Go out and play defense. Forget about that offensive pass interference. You can't do anything as a defensive player. So get the football back for your offense right now. Florida playing better.
Now here's Wilbur with the punt, a spiral. That goes into the end zone. A 42-yard punt, nothing on the return. And right now it's going to be up to Ron Zook's defensive unit to become much stronger and slow the bleeding. We'll be right back after this.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of the 2004 Outback Bowl, presented by Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right. And in part by Chevy, the cars you can depend on, the cars that last. We'll be there. And Raymond James, listening to you like you are the only investor in the world. Raymond James, you first.
Iowa with a 27-10 lead here in the 3rd quarter with just under 6 minutes to go. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey and Holly Rowe for this, the 18th edition of the Outback Bowl. It's Big Ten against the SEC. Big Ten looking for its 2nd win overall. And the bowl big picture. Fred Russell, the deep back out of the eye on 1st down and 10. A little premature movement up front.
Dead ball, false start, offense, 5 yards, 1st down.
It'll be 1st down and 15 now for Iowa.
Mark, anytime you have those linemen up at the line of scrimmage for a long time, there's a chance there's going to be a procedure penalty. That time, Nate Chandler checking, doing a lot of X and O at the line of scrimmage. Robert Gallery jumped in motion.
Sets up a 1st down and 15. Gallery, the Outland Trophy winner, and a big part of their success being able to run the ball today with a total of 129 yards on the ground. Brown in motion. Play action, Chandler on the naked bootleg, wide open. Mo Brown with one guy to beat. And he's pushed out of bounds at the 43 by Gus Scott. Great ball handling by the quarterback, Nathan Chandler. Really sold the fake.
Again on a running down, 1st and 10. Great play action fake. He hides the ball in his belly. Mo Brown right there, Mark, with an out and up move on Kewan Ratliff, the corner. Right here we see a little out, back up the field, and look right here, Kewan Ratliff looking back into the backfield. You should be focused on that receiver right there. Excellent design, and Iowa again, Mark, with great field position.
They're going to run the ball. Freddie Russell down to the 37. A momentum killer for Florida. That offensive pass interference moments ago. Let's take one more look.
Mark, and such a big call in the game. Let's go back and look again. Right there, I think, is where the offensive pass interference was called. It was before the football got to the receiver, Dallas Baker. That was offensive pass interference early before Dallas Baker went up to catch the football. I can tell by the look on your face you don't agree with that call. But, Mark, you have to give the defensive back an opportunity to go up and make a play on the ball. Dallas Baker inhibited Jovan Johnson from jumping and going vertical. It was pass interference.
Ball's up there for grabs, and the big fella just went up and got it. That's the way I saw it anyway, and that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Fred Russell, meanwhile, Bob, gets the 1st down for the Hawkeyes, moving the chains at the 34-yard line. Fred Russell now has gone over 100 yards in the ball game. At 1,205 coming in. That's his 15th 100-plus rushing game this season. Pardon me, in his career.
Mark, when you talk about deep in the backfield, that's about as deep as a tailback gets. He's back there almost at 10 yards.
And here's the zone play. Freddie Russell finding it, feeling it, doing it, and doing it well. Touchdown, Iowa.
too talented of a defensive front. I mean, that's a crater right there. Nobody even within 5 yards of Freddie Russell from the time he takes the handoff. And Florida, a disappointing defensive series. They had a chance, Mark, with their offense playing better to make a statement. That was a poor defensive series for Florida. Iowa in total control now of this football game.
The ebb and flow has been amazing in this game from the very beginning. Kaeding knocks it through, and for Fred Russell, that's his 7th rushing touchdown this season. The big fella with big game from Inkster, Michigan, putting the hammer down. We'll be right back.
I think you move me. But I wanna love a show.
NFL Wild Card Saturday. Titans, Ravens, followed by Cowboys, Panthers, 4 Eastern on ABC.
Iowa by 24 points over Florida right now as we look at the pirate ship here at Raymond James Stadium, and Fred Russell making the Gators walk the plank of that pirate ship right now.
Reminds you of Warwick Dunn, a former Tampa Bay Buck, Mark, that used to play in this stadium a little bit, doesn't it?
Same build, right? And Caldwell with the knee, and let's go back to Reese. Reese, tell us the Big Ten's doing a little better, or are they?
Well, I tell you, it's a good thing Iowa's carrying that Big Ten banner for Big Ten loyalists, because Purdue Pete's got a dog on his rear end. It's Fred Gibson, his 2nd touchdown of the day, and Georgia's laying the wood, controlling the game, 14-0 in the Capital One Bowl. Maryland is doing likewise in the Toyota Gator Bowl, 17-0 over West Virginia.
I wonder if Purdue forgot their suntan lotion. What's happening to them? Deshaun Wynn running it over the left side of the offensive line.
Mark, and I know exactly what Ron Zook's doing right now. He's trying to keep his defensive team's head up. It's a little late. You go back to how critical that offensive pass interference was, which in my opinion was in 27-17. A minute later, the reality is it's 34-10 Iowa. So a huge momentum change.
And Leak sacked back at the 19-yard line by Tyler Lupke. With 4 minutes to go now in the 3rd period. That has been a stout and staunch defense for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and Shannon Snell is down on the turf for the Gators. 6'4", 310-pound senior. Well, here's our Aflac trivia question. We'll revisit that. What school has the best record and what school has the worst record in Big Ten SEC bowl games? Our producer, Bo Garrett, was teasing us, almost taunting us with this question in our production meeting last night, Bob, and I got to admit, I came up empty. You?
Well, that shows you that it's not going to be a Michigan or Ohio State with the best record like you would presume. Right?
Yeah, you got it.
He felt pretty confident that we wouldn't know this, and that's why right there. Ohio State with the worst
What
record.
about that? 0-6. Georgia looking to make it 5-0, leading Purdue right now. Our Aflac trivia question answer. Kirk Ferentz's squad this year, 5-3 in the Big Ten Conference play, 9-3 overall, and I can remember one of the turning points for Iowa this year seemed to be that Thursday before the Minnesota game out in Iowa City. He gave his team and had a chance to listen in on a very impassioned speech about responsibility and his troops taking equity and policing themselves and being selfless and really getting their act together, taking care of their business, and they really seemed to respond after that. Defeated Minnesota in that game and came up with a big win in Wisconsin on the road, and they would be finishing the season very well with a win here against the Gators.
Mark, we're going to get a chance here to look at Shannon Snell, the offensive lineman who gets rolled up on. He has had an excellent season. Right here, he's on the ground right there. It's obvious that that left knee got rolled up on. He's a senior. His dad played in the NFL. And hopefully that is not a real serious injury.
One of several Florida players playing in front of the hometown family and fans here from Tampa, Florida. He and Caldwell.
And Norm Parker, Iowa's defensive coordinator, says it best. When you talk about Florida's offensive linemen, he said, those pants are full. They are some big guys, Mark.
Oh, boy, they've consumed a lot of Outback steak here during the last several days.
And that big offensive line better protect that red line right now, because Iowa's in those sprinter stances crowding that red line.
Here's Leak. Almost picked off by Javon Johnson, intended for Carlos Perez. That thing seemingly hanging up there forever.
Mark, and you notice Chris Leak seems to throw the football down the middle of the field much more decisively than he does throwing those passes to the outside flat area of the field. That's about the third time today that we've seen an outside throw almost picked off. So seems to be a much better quarterback on those crossing routes down through the middle of the field that we've seen him complete to Carlos Perez.
Remember, it came down to Iowa or Florida for the true freshman Leak. He chose the Gators. Ochoa watches it bounce. Back at the 22, Ramon Ochoa. Nice return out to the 45-yard line, a 23-yard run back on a 59-yard punt. Capital One Bowl Week continues tomorrow on ESPN at 4:30 Eastern with the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Clemson will face quarterback Casey Clausen in number 7 Tennessee. Volunteers finishing the season tied for first in the SEC East. Coverage begins with a College Game Day Bowl special at 3:30 Eastern time. And both those coaches, Bob, with some early Christmas presents, both getting their contracts extended respectively. Coach Bowden as well as Coach Fulmer.
Some green in those coaches' pockets, Mark. There's going to be some orange in that stadium.
You got it. First down and 10. Fred Russell, the deep back. Also scored the last time he touched the ball, not this time. Tackled at the 42. One of the pivotal plays here, especially in the second half, this offensive pass interference against Dallas Baker. Javon Johnson was defending. And then Fred Russell on the ensuing offensive drive, 34 yards, and the turbo kicked in. And that's what you call a 14-point swing. 34-10 now, the Hawkeyes over the Gators. Iowa looking for its 10th win of the season against just 3 losses. That would give them back-to-back double-digit win seasons. They went 11-2 last year. A great balanced attack by the Hawkeyes. Jensen in motion. Give it to Russell. Freddie Russell near another Iowa first down. They're going to mark it at the 47-yard line, about a yard short.
Mark, we haven't talked a lot about Robert Gallery today, but right here, the good news, we haven't talked about Bobby McCray, number 57, either. You see him come off and reach Bobby McCray, the defensive end, ultimately chop him to the ground. So Bobby McCray a little bit frustrated right here, wanting that holding penalty. Just line up and play, Bobby. You can't worry about those penalties.
That was a 9-yard pickup, Bob, by Freddie Russell. 3rd and 1. Run the counter. Russell stopped up near the line of scrimmage. Not sure that he got the first down.
And Mark, I'm surprised right there that Iowa ran that little counter and pulled the lineman. They are normally successful when they run the zone play with offensive linemen all going in the same direction. That was a bit of a change-up call right there that surprised me.
It's going to be 4th down and short, 4th and 1 to go. And the kicker, David Bradley, coming onto the field for the Hawkeyes.
Mark, it's obvious this has been a field position game, and Iowa's been the recipient all day of excellent field position, so really a no-brainer right here for Kirk Ferentz to go ahead and punt this football.
4th and 1, Bradley gets it off a high spiral, his 5th punt of the day. Their catch called back at the 9-yard line by Ratliff. A 39-yard punt, nothing on the return. Chris Leak, the true freshman, replacing a Heisman Trophy runner-up from a couple of years ago in Rex Grossman.
And Mark, so important as we look at a 34-10 football game. This game isn't over. I mean, not with the explosiveness of Florida, But even if it were to be over right now, it's important for Florida to finish strong with this young quarterback. Sounds pretty not real important to some people, but finishing on a positive, looking for some positive out of the chance here playing in January.
1st and 10, Bob. The toss to Carthon. Carthon brought down at the 13-yard line. Tell you a little bit more about the work ethic of Chris Lee, the freshman quarterback. Zonbrecker, actually, Zook called him the night before Christmas. And you know what he was doing? He was watching tape of the LSU game. If he fails today, it won't be for lack of preparation.
Mark, you're right. And Wake Forest offered Chris Leak a scholarship when he was in the 7th grade.
Can you do that?
Yeah. As long as he doesn't take it.
2nd and 7. Snell back in the ball game, up in the air and falling harmlessly incomplete to the turf. Abdul Hodge was all over O.J. Small.
And again, you see Iowa, who does not substitute, put extra defensive backs in the game. The linebacker, Abdul Hodge, breaking on this football. Iowa, Mark, interestingly, plays the same coverage just about every single down, a quarter coverage. Those players for Iowa get so comfortable, it comes down to reading the routes of the offense. They don't have to worry about where to line up. They worry about reading the routes of the offensive players.
3rd down and 7. Leak sacked back at the 4-yard line by Howard Hodges, his 11th of the season.
First of all, this is a coverage sack as we look at Howard Hodges from the backside. Howard Hodges, Mark, a guy I think should be playing in one of these postseason All-Star games. He's a senior. That's his 11th sack on the year. An undersized defensive end, but give credit to Iowa's zone coverage. Again, terrible field position for Florida all day.
Running out of his end zone, Wilbur gets off a shaky punt. This one is going to stop rolling at the 43 of Florida. So once again, good starting field position for the Iowa Hawkeyes on that 39-yard boot. Capital One Bowl Week concludes on ESPN with the Humanitarian Bowl. Saturday at noon, Reggie Ball and Georgia Tech will face Tulsa. The Golden Hurricanes scored the biggest turnaround in college football from last season and will make their first bowl appearance since 1991. That's noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. Well, you can almost hear the applause and the shouts coming all the way from Hawkins Street at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City.
Mark, you talked about bowl games being a reward for players and coaches. I promise you, they're only a reward if you win the bowl game.
Mel Lewis in there. Chandler to a wide open Mo Brown. He was working on Gus Scott. With 7 seconds to go in the 3rd period.
Mark, excellent protection on the play action. This route takes a long time to develop. As you're going to see the outside receiver clear, and then Mo Brown starts down the sideline and comes back to the football on a trail route. This takes a long time, and you see him come back to the football. Gus Scott continued upfield. But because of the running game, they ran it on a running down. Mark, a lot of time for that route to develop.
On that 20-yard pickup, sets up 1st and 10 from the 24. Mel Lewis. Lewis with some hard running down to the 17. Tackled by Matt Ferrier, and that is the last play of the 3rd period. Out of the Big Ten, the Iowa Hawkeyes leading by 24. So far, you can color this day black and yellow. Russell and the special teams doing it. Back for the 4th after this. A couple of boats here in Tampa Bay. You're back at the Outback Bowl, and this is an area that was popular among pirates, Bob, back in the mid-1500s. Many pirates coming to this area to seek treasures. Right now, it's Iowa looking for their pot of gold. 2nd and 5. Oh, what a move by Lewis. Put the brakes on. He got about 4 yards on that run down to the 16-yard line, eluding the contact right when he got the handoff.
Mark, young football teams like Florida their confidence level so fragile. Even though they have a bunch of gifted, highly recruited athletes, and that offensive pass interference just broke their back. But prior to that, a lot of mistakes in this football game for Florida, and give Iowa credit. They came in here focused. They've come in here physical. Now all they need to do is finish this thing off and put an exclamation point on it.
Bob looking at a 3rd down and 3.
It's like Florida's going to blitz them, Mark. They're going to get man-to-man coverage right here.
Got a flag on the field.
Dead ball. Delay of game. 5 yards. Offense. 3rd down.
Time running out on Nate Chandler. The 3rd down and about 8 to go now. Ball moved back to the 22-yard line.
Mark, this Florida defense, 6 defensive touchdowns this year. 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles, 30 takeaways, #1 in the SEC. Iowa's done an excellent job of protecting the football against a takeaway style defense.
3rd and 8, they have to get to the 13-yard line for the 1st down. Inside option dropped, and that's an incomplete pass to Jamel Lewis. So it is Special K time. Nate Kaeding coming in to attempt his 3rd field goal of the afternoon. He's already made 2 from 47 and 32 yards out. 19 of 20 on the season. A Lou Groza candidate for most of the season. One of the finalists.
Mark, and a remarkable athlete. A 3-sport player in high school. Went to high school right there in Iowa City. In fact, I think a part of 3 state championship teams in different sports.
This one from 38. Money. Nate Kaeding gives the Hawkeyes a 37-10 lead, and we have a timeout. But first, downstairs to Holly. What's coming up?
Hey guys, he left a year early to go to the NFL, but Florida great Rex Grossman is here. We'll talk to him after the break.
This was part of the scene pre-game, the flyby by the Harrier Jets. Members of our armed forces on hand here today, and Captain, wonderful people on hand being honored. Veterans, Jaden Kim, Bernice Armour, Bernie Russell, and Corporal David Hickson, who fought with Tampa's own 4th Assault Group. And much love going out to those protecting our interests in the armed forces, both abroad and domestically. Jackson on the return, Chad Jackson. And he is struck down at the 27-yard line. And Holly Rose standing by with a special Gator guest.
I'm here with Florida's quarterback Rex Grossman from the last 2 seasons. Rex, you came out early, which is a bit of a gamble, but how has it been to earn a starting job in the NFL?
It was fun. You know, after we were out of the playoff picture, I got a chance to start the last couple of games to get my feet wet, and it was just fun to get out there and get a couple of wins.
You've had some chance to start as a young quarterback for Florida. What do you think is happening with Chris Leak right now? What's going through his mind?
Well, he just, you know, hopefully he can get some points on the board, but this game isn't really going to matter to him and his career. He's going to be a great quarterback. He's real composed, throws an accurate ball, and, you know, hopefully he can make the score a little prettier here in the 4th quarter, but really in the whole thick of things, this really is no big deal for him.
It's not going to break him.
No, not at all.
What's it like to see Florida running this no huddle?
We ran it some last year, and it kind of throws defenses off a little bit, but, you know, it's another way of doing things that they like, so, you know, we'll see.
And last question, you just lost your coach, Dick Giron. What's the word on the new coaching staff?
I have no idea. Our general manager handles that, and I just hope he picks a good one.
All right, thanks very much, and congratulations.
I want to say real quick to my friend Ben and Brad waiting for me right after this. I'll come get you.
Hey, Rex.
We are not a messaging service, Rex.
Come on now. He doesn't have a two-way?
He said his cell phone's not working in here, so he needed to get that message out.
Mark, but I think Rex Grossman brings up a really good point. Young quarterbacks and young players, they worry about themselves and their performance. He said it. Chris Leak doesn't have as much invested in this program yet as some older guys do. particularly like a Nate Chandler or a Fred Russell from Iowa, guys that have been around 4 or 5 years. When you're young, you worry about your performance. When you're old, you worry about the team's performance and winning. So as he goes on, it'll become much more important to him about the overall productivity of this football team.
Certainly has a great future, Bob. We are here at the Outback Bowl, the 18th chapter of it overall. Number 12, Iowa against Florida. Right now, Iowa in control. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey and Holly Rowe down to the field. And Florida in the hole right now, a big one. Leak falling down at the 43-yard line. 12:51 to go. Jared Klaus there to bring him down.
And Ed Zonbrecker, Florida's offensive coordinator, Mark, you mentioned he's been around some big-time quarterbacks. Rex Grossman, Chad Pennington, Sean Leftwich at Marshall, Tommy Hodson at LSU. He said Chris Leak has it all. And as you mentioned, particularly the work ethic.
That is high school team to 46 consecutive wins. You saw that graphic moments ago. The SEC winning by a 2-1 margin over the Big Ten, head-to-head, down deep. And intercepted at the 12-yard line by Javon Johnson. The team leader in interceptions. It was intended for Carlos Perez. And Leak coming up a little bit short on that one.
And right there, they go to the deep post route at the top up here to Carlos Perez. Javon Johnson right here, Mark, a great job of looking back as if he was the receiver. Poorly thrown ball, he goes up and makes the play. If you're Chris Leak, throw that football a little more to the outside or a little deeper, Mark. But Javon Johnson in his comfort zone the whole way because he was in great coverage relationship. Looked back to the football, made the interception.
His 6th interception of the season, 10th career. First down and 10 for the Hawkeyes. Russell wrapped up at the 14-yard line by Ferrier. Time now for our Outback game track. Iowa has been a monument to domination on both sides of the ball. Offensively and then defensively, bottling up the talented quarterback Chris Leak. And his special teams, they got star 69 call blocking on their phones. Recovery in the end zone by Melloy for the touchdown. And that's the way they started the second half. Johnson with a pick moments ago to give Iowa the ball. Nate Kaeding, meanwhile, speaking of special teams, with 3 field goals. 2nd and 6. And Russell is bottled up back at the 13 by McDonald and Lee.
Mark, again, why this game obviously so important for Florida and Ron Zook. They started off this season 3-3. They had a remarkable turnaround, winning 5 straight at LSU, at Arkansas. They beat Georgia, but they lost their last game at home against Florida State. And the bottom line, if they finish this season having lost 2 straight games to Florida State and Iowa, you cannot build on this as a successful season because people will only remember and players will only remember those last 2 games.
3rd down and 8. Chandler completes it to Lewis. Lewis knocked out of bounds at the 20-yard line. Getting back to Ron Zook. You talk about where he is with the program right now in his 2nd year. The one thing that I think won't happen anytime soon, Bob, is I don't think he'll lose the players. He's really a player's coach in the truest sense. He'll get in there in the weight room and throw the bar up and lift weights, bench press with them, and kind of hack it around with them a little bit.
Well, Mark, I'm sure they appreciate that, but you and I both know highly recruited players that are used to having great success, they want to win. And that is the bottom line of keeping the football team. As good a coach as you are, as good a guy as you are, the reality is you better win.
Especially in Gainesville. At the 33. Ratliff. Flag down, and Ratliff down at the 42. A 47-yard punt on the play by Bradley. Iowa looking at perhaps, should they hang on, their 10th win of the season. And back-to-back double-figure win years. This is going to be against the return team in Florida.
And Mark, I think Iowa likes Central Florida a little better than they like Miami. Just comparing last year's Orange Bowl performance to this year's Outback Bowl performance.
That'd be a safe bet right now. Timeout on the field, one of the questions begging with Iowa leading. We'll see if their bowl drought will end. More on that right after this.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of the 2004 Outback Bowl, presented by Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right. And in part by Jeep. If it's not trail rated, it's not a Jeep 4x4. And by Capital One. What's in your wallet?
A benevolent sky spattering down here on one of the jewels of Florida, Tampa. Here at the Outback Bowl, Iowa leading 37-10. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey and Holly Rowe on New Year's Day here. It has been all black and yellow. Sean Wynn on the handoff, and Wynn is brought down at the 31-yard line by number 31, Matt Roth. Matt Roth is a guy that his own teammates and coaches will tell you, you might have a bit of a loose wire up top, but he's not the type of guy that you want to rein in too much, Bob. You just got to let him go.
Well, Mark, look at those. I don't think those are decals on his arm right there. I think that's the real thing. But Norm Parker says it best. He says, if you're in a fight, you want Matt Roth on your side. It's that simple.
Chris Leak throwing the out pattern, incomplete to Carlos Perez.
Mark, again, Chris Leak struggles with the outside throws. But let's go back to Kirk Ferentz and his preparation for this bowl game. It started last spring. Holly talked about this. He had every coach on his staff as part of a research project, called different coaches. He set up different plans in the spring depending on what date the bowl game was going to be played. But the biggest thing, he kept his players through Christmas, and they had physical, focused practices.
Leak on third down and long. Good open field tackle at the 32-yard line. There's an Iowa hat down in the field. I believe it belongs to Hodges.
And Mark, I'm going to make this statement. If Iowa plays in a bowl game next year, those players can forget about going home for Christmas. That's the last time. That Orange Bowl, that was the last time they ever had a chance to go home over Christmas. But how about the credit you have to give to these players? You talk about a long season now. And that's why chemistry is so important on a football team. This football team's been together since August. You better like each other. More importantly, you better respect each other.
4th down and 6, and kind of underscores the fact that there were some senior players on the Florida team that weren't quite ready to give up their positions to some of the junior players and the younger guys on the Gator team, although they did eventually kind of work that out. 8:56 to go in the 4th quarter. We have a timeout on the field after that 44-yard punt. Back with more after this. Chris Leak, the freshman quarterback from Florida, has seen better days. 37-10. He will have better days. For Nate Chandler, conversely, this is his last game for the Iowa Hawkeyes. They've had a string of consecutive senior starting quarterbacks. Chandler 13 of 24 passing, 170 yards and a touchdown. 1st and 10, Jermel Lewis. And Lewis is out to the 28-yard line. Well, the month of January and bowls has not been kind to the Iowa Hawkeyes. They haven't won one since the Rose Bowl in 1959. If they hang on, they would end that insidious drought. Dwight Eisenhower, by the way, Bob was a president back then.
And Mark, the byproducts of having a successful bowl experience. Go back to that story of Chris Leak calling Kirk Ferentz after watching the Michigan game to set up a visit. There's a bunch of young guys out there across the country that are impressed with this Iowa Hawkeye football team.
2nd down and 5. Schnoor in the ball game at tailback. Nate Chandler really facilitating that offense today. We talked about ending that Rose Bowl drought, that January Bowl drought. Iowa's last win in January came against Cal in the '59 Rose Bowl. Look at this vintage video, Bob. Bob Jeter ran for 194 yards on 9 carries, including an 81-yard touchdown to win Player of the Game honors. Willie Fleming scored 2 touchdowns for Iowa, 37 and 7 yards each. Iowa beat Cal 38-12.
Mark, that's when ball used to be ball.
Leather helmet?
If that ball was in the middle of the field, all 22 players were inside those hashes. Everything was played in a box.
They snore. Brought down at the 41. Nice run by him. Got about 5. Good block up front by Robert Gallery, who has, for the most part, neutralized Bobby McCray for most of the day. As for Fred Russell, what a productive afternoon for him.
And Mark, some great seniors on this Iowa football team as we look at Robert Gallery. But how about Bob Sanders, a guy on defense on all special teams that just makes your football team better. Guys like Grant Steen, Freddie Russell, Mo Brown. They've had some great senior leadership, guys that have been through the tough times and now reap the rewards, Mark.
24 seniors in all, Bob. On 2nd down and 4. Another play fake. And Chandler wisely throws it away. Let's go back to Reese Davis in the studio.
SEC and Big Ten are apparently going to be 1-1 on this day. Purdue and Georgia in the Capital One Bowl. David Green, Reggie Brown. Green, Brown beating Purdue black and blue. It's 24-0. Not yet at the half. Same score in the Toyota Gator Bowl with Maryland on top of West Virginia.
That's a proud Purdue defense, Mark. Surprising. That shows you how good Georgia must be to put 24 on them in the first half.
Shocking. 3rd and 4 for Iowa. Nose of the ball at the 42. Nate Chandler, the transfer out of South Lake, Texas. Sacked back at the 32 by Travis Harris.
And the only thing that hasn't worked today is that shuffle pass for Iowa, Mark. That's the 2nd time on 3rd down we have seen them try to run that play. And speaking of the future, if Iowa gets this football back, I wouldn't be surprised to see Drew Tate, their freshman quarterback and heir apparent to Nathan Chandler, get some playing time.
Yeah, one of the best ever in high school history in the state of Texas. Bradley into punt from his own 20. Ratliff standing on his own 23. The day began inauspiciously for the Gators. They had 2 players suspended for the first few series of the game, Gus Scott and Kewan Ratliff, for violations of unspecified team rules. Although they have played in the ballgame, sometimes you wonder how much it might have affected Florida defensively. Flags down at the 35.
Mark, again, the point of the longer players are at the line of scrimmage in a ready position. That time, Iowa trying to run down the 25-second clock before they punted that football. The greater chance for error as you saw the procedure.
False start. Offense, 5 yards, 4th down.
It'll be a nice ride back to Iowa City. All 1,400 miles. 4th down and 17. Guys making a statement on behalf of the Big Ten Conference. Looking for their 2nd win collectively in the bowl season here. Low snap. Bradley gets off a nice high spiral, driving Ratliff back to the 23. Ratliff brought down to the 33-yard line. A 10-yard return on a 50-yard punt. Time out on the field. 5:38 to go from Tampa here at the Outback Bowl. We'll be back. Iowa leading 37-10 with 5:38 to go in the 4th quarter here in the 18th edition of the Outback Bowl. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey and Holly Rowe. Fred Russell has had himself quite a day today. 1st down and 10 for the Gators. Tavis Walker now in the backfield. Leap. Pass is complete to Jamel Cornelius. Not as much blue and orange in the stands here at the stadium anymore, Bob.
Mark, they get
a lot of black Not a black and gold, though.
And I tell you what, these Hawkeye fans going to enjoy every second of this one. They had to go up on this boat with this ship in this end zone here and just put a big old Hawkeye logo on the ship.
Don't give many ideas. 1st and 10. Lee throws a nice dart complete at the 39 to Cornelius once again. 5:24 to go. A look at the pirate ship here at Raymond James Stadium, and what a great facility this is for a bowl game. Now, Bob, at this time, I send out a New Year's greetings to my family back home. Leak complete to the sideline. That one to Dallas Baker. Well, tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, Clemson facing number 7 Tennessee in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Tigers close out the season by winning their last 3. Clemson, meanwhile, averaged 43 points in the 3 wins. Coverage beginning with College Game Day Bowl special at 3:30 Eastern time. 2nd down and 4 for Chris Leak. The backfield complete. That's Walker again.
Mark, and I go back to this. We had a chance, as I mentioned, to visit practice, and we talked about the contrast between these two teams is remarkable. I mean, you walk off that practice field after watching Florida, and you say, wow, can there be any better athletes anywhere in the country? But it's not just about having all the best athletes, and Iowa has proven that here today. In each situation, there's always a lot of circumstances. And I think you talked about the team meeting Florida had when they were 3-3. And anytime you have new, young talent replacing older players that have waited their turn to play,
right,
that's a volatile situation. And it's fragile. When you go back to the 2 players, Gus Scott, Keelan Ratliff, 2 senior leaders that Ron Zook had to discipline and hold out of this football game. In the end, the senior leadership, maybe not what it should have been for this Florida team.
Pass complete to Small at the 25. And for more on Florida, let's go to Holly Rowe.
Guys, Florida coach Ron Zook told us that people underestimate in this day and age how difficult it is to make a team atmosphere. He said everybody in this day and age is all about me, not we. He said it's very hard to do team building. On the contrasting side for Iowa, Norm Parker, their defensive coordinator, told us, in Iowa, we don't have mountains, oceans, anything. We just have each other. All these kids know how to do is work hard and be together.
That's a good point, Holly. Here's Leak now. One up top for Baker. Touchdown. No offensive pass interference on that one. Dallas Baker, an imposing target out there at about 6'4", 200 pounds plus that 38-inch vertical leap.
And Mark, you have to be impressed. Chris Leak, young enough, he's just going to keep on playing regardless of what the score is. And every snap he takes now is about next year in the future.
And he was 7 of 7 on that drive. And 10 different receivers now have caught passes for the Florida Gators. The extra point is good. It's down to a 20-point lead for the Hawkeyes. So far, though, Florida's been not that effective. We'll be back with more after this. 3:47 to go in the 4th quarter. Iowa comfortably out in front. And our Capital One player of the game is Fred Russell. Ran the ball 21 times for a total of 150 yards and a touchdown. And Iowa right now looking at the onside kick. Got the good hands people up front. Hinkle, Considine, Melloy, who blocked the punt and recovered the loose ball. And Petrovich is a straight-on kicker, something you don't see often in football at any level.
I wonder where he finds shoes to kick now if he still uses that square toe.
Called up Mark Mosley. And it's recovered by the Hawkeyes at the 48-yard line by Merrick. Hey, Reese Davis, tell us what's coming up.
Got a little hoops coming your way, Mark. Andre Emmett leading the Red Raiders in against Minnesota, and you see what Emmett has done to the Golden Gophers of Dan Monson. Of course, Emmett does that to pretty much everybody. Minnesota, Texas Tech. Hoops coming up next.
Hey, what about Minnesota and Chris Humphries? What an amazing story he is this year. 23 points a game, 24 points a game on 51% shooting, and Minnesota a little bit smarting from that loss against Nebraska. Trying to bounce back. First down and 10. Schnorr with a nice run between the tackles down to the 38-yard line.
And you see Kirk Ferentz right now substituting some younger players so that this Iowa contingent of fans gets a chance to show their appreciation for these Hawkeye older players.
Do these fans travel well or what, Bob? I mean, we have seen them all over the Tampa-St. Pete's area.
This may no longer be the best-kept secret in college football. Iowa, you have to go to Iowa City to see a football game, Mark, to really appreciate these fans and the tradition they have going there.
One of the special places, Kinnick Stadium. Drew Tate now, he's the future at quarterback for the Hawkeyes. He hands it off to A.J. Johnson. There is some hard hitting going on still. Nate Chandler, a guy who emerged from the shadows this year and did a nice job here this afternoon. We've had our great aerial shots today, courtesy of our friends at Outback Steakhouse, proud sponsor of the Outback Bowl. The Outback Steakhouse airship, the Bloomin' Onion, won by its aerial coverage for sporting events across the country.
Mark and Nathan Chandler, you mentioned the fourth different Iowa quarterback in 4 years. Now he graduates, and the heir apparent Drew Tate is in there. You know what? Someone told him he wasn't going to play. He doesn't have his socks on out there.
Hey, it's warm. From Iowa City. A.J. Johnson, the understudy, one of many for Fred Russell, and what a day he's had. 150 yards rushing. Fred Russell went back to the drawing board after last year when he broke down late in the season. Said, I have to take better care of my body. Cut down on the fried foods. No more fried chicken wings. No more French fries at the Field House and at Brothers and at Cito's on the pedestrian mall in Iowa City. It was steamed vegetables and baked chicken. And it's all worked out well for Fred Russell.
Sounds like you're making your bowl resolution right there.
Oh, come on. That's a lot to ask.
Yourself.
That's a lot to ask for me, Bob.
If you and I can't have chicken wings,
maybe we'll end it.
It's one of the small pleasures left, Mark, for us.
A.J. Johnson with another carry.
But it doesn't get any better, Mark, than winning a bowl game. All that hard work, all that sacrifice, staying over Christmas. These guys ought to enjoy every second of this. The next time you see Robert Gallery, he's decided not to play in any postseason All-Star games. He'll be playing in the NFL for someone on Sundays, Mark.
He's seen his draft stock go up quite a bit. We showed you Mel Kiper's big board earlier. He was one of the top 10. Second down and 7. With 1:20 to go. Drew Tate now in a quarterback. And Johnson on the handoff down to the 20-yard line. Coming up next on ESPN, college basketball. Minnesota faces Bobby Knight and Texas Tech. Andre Emmett and the gang. Tune into ESPN News for continuing post-game coverage and reaction from today's Outback Bowl. And Bob, I want to wish my family, my wife Sarah, my 3 kids, and mom and dad back home in Miami. Happy New Year, and yourself.
I'd like to do the same thing. My
and all
Joanne and my daughter Audra. And let me say this. I didn't realize when I first got into this how much work is involved by people other than us to put this show on. I mean, our camera guys, our stats guys, our production guys. I mean, it really is like a football team. And sometimes you only see the finished product, but there's a bunch of people behind the scenes that make that happen.
That's true for sure. Our producer, Bo Garrett, and our director, Bruce Troy, our stat man, Steve LeBeau, and Seth Jacobson, our spotter, Holly Rowe. Holly, I know you can hear us. Happy New Year to you, too. She got a suntan during her trip.
She's going to enjoy every second of this before she goes back to Salt Lake City. And, Mark, what are we going to do without football now?
What's that?
What are we going to do without football? It's kind of a withdrawal syndrome. I saw you going on to that basketball right there quickly talking about Minnesota now.
I'm a chameleon, man. Got to change my colors real quick. 4th down and 6. But the color of the day has been gold and black. The Iowa Hawkeyes Going to finish up the year 10-3 overall. And winners here in the Outback Bowl. What a hard run down to the 13-yard line. Kirk Ferentz with back-to-back double-digit win seasons. He turned it around 5 years ago. 1-10, followed by 3-9, then 7-5, 11-2 a season ago, and now 10-3. He is one of the hot properties in college football coaching.
And Mark, you see, it really is a business-like deal. Not a whole lot of Gatorade splashes or anything like that. This football team came down here focused and one agenda, and that was to win a football game. And congratulations to Iowa. They put on a clinic today.
Florida Gators will be back. They have a talented young crew. But for Ron Zook, it's going to be about 5 months of agonizing until they start spring ball.
And if you're Ron Zook, you want spring practice to start tomorrow so that there's some positive on which to build.
Final score 37-17. So the Big Ten notches its second win of the bowl season to improve to 2-3 overall. Purdue taking on Georgia right now, hoping to perhaps even it at 3 apiece. And Michigan plays in the Rose Bowl against USC. Final thoughts, Bob? Real quick.
Mark, Iowa, other than giving up the one play-action pass, a statement game, not only for this year, but for their program. Florida has to rebound.
Well, coming up next, college basketball. Minnesota taking on Texas Tech. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. With Bob Davey, Holly Rowe, and the rest of our talented ESPN crew. Have a happy new year. So long, everybody, from Tampa.